Yo, what's up everyone? Kyrios here, and today we're going to go over our child build guide. Now, we do have multiple builds today. I have two with maybe a third bonus build, but I'm going to need all of your help in order to help me prove it. I only had the gear for two of them. So we're going to go over the talents, the constellation, the stats and gear, and the team composition with the weapons that you want to use. A quick shout out to one of my Twitch viewers, Nom Nom Kirby, for some of the footage. He was able to provide me some of the gear that I did not have for one of our second builds. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Once again, we'll have all the chapters down below so you can skip to whatever section you want to go to. Follow me on twitch.tv and all my other social media down below. Subscribe, like, I appreciate you. Let's go kick off the video. All right, guys, let's talk about artifacts first. So for Child, his artifacts can be different all across the board. There's many different ways that you can build them. You can build them to be an all-arounder, where you're using them with his just normal attacks, with his burst and his skill. Or you can use them as a sub DPS, where you use them for just his burst and skill. Or you can use them for a combination of everything. So he has a spot everywhere, which is kind of odd. So let's talk about the first set that I think you guys are going to use, which is the Noblesse set. The Noblesse set is very good, especially if you want to get those big hitting crit numbers off your Q or off your burst, or off your skill, I should say. And the Noblesse is going to go a long way. Now, I think two-piece Noblesse is better than the four-piece. It depends on how long you stay in a water blade form. That's his skill, taking out his water blades, and how long you're going to be there for. So your mileage may vary with your four-piece. But if you're going to do the Noblesse set, two-piece is very good. And you can obviously do maybe like a two-piece Gladiator or two-piece of almost any other set that's going to give you the stats that you need. When we talk more about the overall stats that you're looking for, you're going to want to make sure that it doesn't matter if you break sets sometimes, you want to focus on getting those correct stats. The second set that I want to talk about real quick is partially the Gladiator set and probably the Wanderers trope set. So look at the Gladiators. Obviously, I would not take four-piece Gladiators, but two-piece Gladiators is going to give you that attack bonus, and attack bonus is going to go a long way. This is what I mean by, instead of using your four-piece Noblesse, you could do a combination of Gladiators with two-piece Noblesse and get a lot of raw damage. What's good about this is it's going to allow you to give your auto attacks much more oomph when you need them. And that's another build you can do. So there's two different builds, and that's when we look at the weapons, you have to take the weapons objectively on how you want to build Child. There's just so many different ways. So if you're looking for more of an auto attack build, so I would mix and match some of those pieces in. Now, Wanderer's Trope does get an honorary mention here, mainly because the two-piece on it is also very good. And the four-piece can be good if you're just doing a lot of bow attacks. So if you're not using him for his blades or his Q very often, obviously you're going to use it, but if you're using them just to pop off shots to make elemental reactions and stuff like that, Wanderer's Trope can go a long way. I wouldn't highly build around it, but I would go for one of either four-piece Noblesse or a combination of Noblesse plus Gladiators. Now, one set I do want to talk about, guys, is the Retracing Bullied something. Now, hear me out on this. This set, you're going to have to make a team around. This is my build number 3. I honestly think it's going to be his best build out there, depending on the constellations that you've broken with Child. The reason I say that, I know the two-piece gives you shield strength and stuff like that, but really look at that four-piece bonus. While protected by a shield, gain an additional 40% normal and charged attack damage. Now, this can go a long way with either of the builds that you're doing, whether you're running Rust, because you want to do a lot of just raw physical damage, or if you're running like Skyward Harp or one of the other bows that allows you to be more of an all-arounder. If you build a team around this, like say you're using someone like Noelle, or you're using someone like Nin, or you're using the new healer, Diona, which also gives shielding, this can make him do a ton of damage, which is something I think is very, very interesting. So this might be, I'm still in the middle of testing this, guys. Guys, if you have tested this out and you have attack and you have crit rate and you have maybe hydro damage, and we'll talk about the stats you're looking for here in a second, but hit me up in the comments down below. I would love to see that gameplay. I would love to comment on it. Let me know. Hit me up in the Discord. Hit me up on my Twitch. I'm trying to get the pieces right now. Obviously, you can tell the substats have not been working with me, but we'll see what happens there. But I think this is build number 3, and I honestly think this might be his best build. All right, now that we just talked about the artifacts, let's talk about the stats you're looking for. So above, you're going to have the stat priority that you are looking for depending on the build. So there's going to be 2 different lines there, but you're pretty much going to be going for crit damage, and then either attack percent and hydro damage, or attack percent and flat attack, depending on the way you're trying to build them. So take that in mind, and there's many different ways, and you could always work your way up to it. So if you're looking through his artifacts, right, you're going to have attack percent. You're looking for that crit rate. You're looking for that flat attack. You're looking for elemental mastery is not a bad thing either, but you're really looking for that crit damage. On your other artifacts here, you are going to be looking for, so I built him for hydro damage. I haven't found a really nice hydro item yet, but this one worked out pretty well for now. But you can always upgrade as you go. So I'm running crit damage, hydro, and attack percent. And you can see that we have crit damage here. Now, depending on how high your crit is, I'd say if you can't get your crit to about 60%, do not run crit damage on this piece here. You want to run crit rate on this piece here. You want to put something like this on there where you have more crit rate, crit damage, and stuff like that. Now, you could work out the numbers. You know, the higher crit rate is always better, but you get so much raw crit damage off the helmet. If you can get his crit rate to, I'd say, about 55, 60, 70% would be amazing. This is the set. These are the items to go for here. Now, we did talk about the artifacts. You can see I'm running 2-piece Noblesse and 2-piece Wonders. That's just because that's the way that my artifacts worked out. I wasn't able to put 4-piece Noblesse, and I wasn't able to put 2-piece Gladiator on the build that I'm looking to do. But these are the artifacts I was handed, so this is what we got right now. So looking at his attributes, you can see I've obviously built into a ton of attack there. He's got somewhere around 1900 attack. A little bit of elemental mastery. I mean, he's proccing things all day. Not a bad thing. And you can see I got that crit rate up to 65%. So my substats and everything really carried the ball. And I got my crit damage up really high. This is going to help him out in both of his builds. His normal attack build and his E and Q damage. So you can get the burst a lot higher than what it is. But this is going to give him, I have more of an all-arounder build. So it's going to allow me to do things like taking down just normal pop shots and then get into the E and then maybe hit the Q and stuff like that. Energy recharge can go a long way. Unfortunately, if you don't get the good rolls on the substats, there's not a whole lot you can do there, because I don't suggest that you focus on energy recharge. You want to build around him and get heroes that give him more energy. And then you're going to want to do hydro bonus damage. That's if you're building for this hybrid build or the Noblesse set or any of that. If you're building for more of an attack set or more of a physical damage set, you're going to want to either use just raw attack damage in that hydro damage spot, or you're going to want to do maybe even physical damage. I have not tested that yet, but I hope to do that pretty soon. So these are kind of just his all-around stats. All right, guys, let's talk about his talents and constellations real quick. So once again, depending on the way you're building them is how you're going to want to level up his talents. Now, my talents are not leveled up as much. I've been very unlucky with books, unfortunately, but they're pretty okay. So if you're building him for an all-arounder, meaning that you're going to use him for some of his bow shots, you're going to use him for his E, you're going to use him for his Q, so his skill and his burst, you're just going to want to level these up pretty evenly across the board. So his normal attack, which is very good, his Raging Tide, which is also amazing, and his obliteration, which is also amazing. I mean, look at that percentage. I mean, look at the percentage leaps on that Q damage. It's insane. It's insane. So I'd probably say always focus his burst first, followed by his skill, followed by his normal, but you can kind of level him up at the same time. Now, his passive talents, as you level him up, he gets that extended Riptide duration. That's really good for swapping in and out of stance form. He gets that Sword of Torrents, which is also really good, where you're in Raging Tide's melee stance. If you do crit damage, it applies Riptide status, which is also amazingly good. That means you could pop off some just normal shots or some normal melee hits, and it'll land it on crits, which is absolutely great. And mastery of weaponry, sorry, is absolutely amazing. This is why he almost has a spot in every single team count. You can't pull it off, but raises the normal attack level by 1. So if you pair him with someone like Razor, which I know is greedy, or Diluc, or another Claymore user, they're just gonna hit way harder, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So looking at his constellations here, obviously my wallet's not deep enough to get multiple constellations, so I apologize for that. But we can kind of look through them. His C1 is absolutely amazing. Rage lowers the cooldown by 20%. I wish it was like 40%, honestly. I know they would make him a little bit more broken, but like for the cost of 5 stars, right? It should be about 40%. But this is gonna, when you pop out of melee form for your Raging Tides, you get that long cooldown depending on how long you've been in there. So this is gonna lower it between 3 to 6 to whatever amount of seconds, which is pretty good. His number 2, which is absolutely amazing too. When the opponents are affected by Riptide and are defeated, you regenerate 4 elemental energy. That's great. That's great. Now, what I'd love to know, and correct me in the comments down below, guys, is if someone has this, does this count for AoE? So if I kill like 10 AoE mobs, so I just get energy out my yin yang, like that would be amazing. Obviously, you have the normal level ups. His number 4 is pretty good. All of them are really good. These apply 2 Riptide effects. Wow. And then his C6, which this makes him a melee. You know, in all honesty, I wish I had a C6 child, but I do not suggest that you wail. Make sure you pay your bills, all that goodness and stuff like that. But this makes it so he can stay in melee form almost forever. Forever. And it's gross. It's absolutely gross. And there's no, I don't see a cooldown on it. So apparently it can trigger all the time. All the time. Anyways. I mean, obviously, but depending on how much you burst. All right, luckily for me, I think I have all the weapons we need to do in game. I don't actually have to go to Genshin.gg. So let's take a look at his 3 potentially best weapons. Now, all of these come from the gacha system, unfortunately, but we can take a look at some of the other weapons that may be. I think Slingshot has an honorary mention here. So first and foremost, depending on the build, an all-arounder build, Skyward Harp, I think, is going to be his best. Now, let me say this real quick. I think Rust, which is what we're going to look at right after this, and Skyward are almost equal, and Rust can sometimes take it ahead if you've got that refinement in. So we will look at that in just a minute. But Skyward Harp, what I love about it, it gives you crit rate. It's got huge base damage. It increases crit damage by another 20%. So depending on the build, it'll work out really well. And the hits cause 60% inflict in AoE damage as physical damage. This actually hits pretty hard, and I've seen it hit for 3, 4, 5,000 damage for myself. I need to test this out, but I'd love to see putting a physical attack percentage artifact on him and seeing what this does and seeing his damage overall and see if it scales up. Unfortunately, I don't have one built, so I apologize for that, guys. His second best one, I would say, and maybe his first best one, depending on the build. So if you're going for more of that gladiator slash attack set build, Rust is going to go a long way, especially at refinements. You can see I'm already at refinement level 3. Increases normal attack damage by 60%. This also affects into his melee stance skill. I don't know if that's a bug or not, or if that's intentional, but that's insane. This can make him pop off those 2, 3, 4, 5,000 damage hits in his melee stance, and just his normal attacks are great. So this is a great weapon to use. So if you don't have Skyward Harp and you have Rust, do that. Build around Rust. An honorary mention here is Stringless. Now, increases the elemental skill and elemental burst damage by 24%. So this is really going to be for if you're using them as really just a sub DPS. So you're just going to swap to him. You're going to hit his burst. You're going to swap to melee, get those procs of Riptide going, and then swap off him. This is going to make his elemental skills and burst hit a lot harder. If you do this, obviously you are going to want to build into hydro damage and more of the crit rates instead of the crit damage, depending on your substats and stuff like that. I don't really see, so There is something to be said about Sacrificial Bow. After damaging the opponent with an elemental skill, the skill has a 70% chance to end its own cooldown. I have to see this more in action, so this gets kind of a sub mention. I'd love to see more gameplay about it. Unfortunately, I can't level everything because we're just restricted in everything, guys. So if you guys have this built and you've tried it on Child, please let me know. I'd love to know it. I'd love to correct the video on some of those comments. And then let's look at some of the free to win options here. All right, guys. If you are also for my for my free to play players, this is probably one of the better bows you can do. This is where I'm talking about the physical damage. I haven't done the math on it. This could be one way or another, but the compound bow goes a long way. Increases normal attack, increases aim shots by attack, and increases attack speed, which is actually pretty good. You can refine this up, I think, all the way up to about 8%, 9%, 10%, somewhere around there. And attack speed up to 2.0. I'm doing some rough napkin math on refinements here, guys. So this potentially could be a very good bow for him. So if you didn't roll any good bows off the gotcha system and all that, try this bow out. It might go a long way. All right. And finally, the last but not least, I think the only bow that maybe makes sense from a blue perspective is the slingshot. Increases crit rate, which is amazing. If normal attacks or aim shots hit a target within 0.3 seconds, so obviously I think the time goes up as you refine this, increases damage by 36%. This is really good from an auto-attacking build kind of perspective, and it's really good from his melee stance perspective. So this has an honorary mention for my free-to-play players. So I hope that helped you. All right, let's talk about a couple team comps here. Obviously, you guys can see one of my team comps is right here. Diona, Tartaglia, Bennett, Badu. This is built around that third build I was saying, where you want to put a lot of shields on him and just up his attack damage. You're going to treat him as more as a primary DPS. You're going to use Badu as more of your secondary DPS when his cooldowns or his skills are on cooldown. But so what's dependent about this one is Badu definitely has to be at least C1 to get those shields off her bursts. And then Bennett's just good all around. More healing, more attack damage, more fire procs and stuff like that. And Diona's really good also because of the way that she puts down cryo and helps out his burst damage with that. So looking at another build, this is one of my main hitting squads. This is where I use him as more of a sub DPS. We're going to use Shangling and Tartaglia as more of just proccing elemental reactions as needed. And we're going to use Chi-Chi to put up that swirl so we can get that frost and all that off her skill. And we're going to use Razor as more of our primary DPS. You can sub Razor for Diluc or a bunch of other DPS as well. But we're not going to use him as a primary DPS. This is where more of his Noblesse sets or Wanderers or any of that is going to shine a lot better, where you're trying to just hit those elemental reactions off the bear and off Chi-Chi and stuff like that, and then swap to Razor as his cooldowns are good. Now, this is a very good combination. Now, the final combination I'd like to mention, you can sub Noelle for Nin as well, depending on your constellations. Guys, keep that in mind. But it's always good to have a Claymore user. Claymore users are just generally can hit very hard. So take that into consideration. But you can see that we have Barbara, Fischl, Noelle, which, by the way, you're going to get Fischl for free. So everyone can build this soon, assuming you have Child. And then you have Child here. So you're going to use Barbara and Fischl to really buff Tartaglia. You're going to use the skill off Barbara, which is going to increase your hydro damage. And then you're going to use the bird off Fischl to proc that elemental skill chains. And then Noelle's spot can honestly be subbed for almost anyone, but it's good to give them shields. You can put Diona back in here if you want to get more of those elemental reactions. Like I said, you can put Nin in here in case that you don't have constellations. But like I said, he fits in almost every team comp. And it just depends on how long you're going to use them for. If you're going to use them for the 30 seconds and then swap off, you got to have a secondary DPS in order to pick up the slack. Unless you're just going to fire aim shots all day or just normal shots all day. So, all right, guys, I hope that helped you out with your Child build guide. He is insanely OP. I think his Riptide needs a little bit more love, though, especially on that Constellation 1. But is he worth pulling? Maybe. Once again, it's a maybe. I think he's really strong, and he's definitely the pull. Can you fit them up? Can you fit them in? Can you level them? Do you have the books? Do you have the mats? Do you have the resources to level them? Do you have the weapons to level them? Because he does take specific weapons, Rust or Skyward Harp, ideally. So take that in consideration whenever you pull for anyone, guys. So I'm just being objective. Like, unless you really want to swipe that credit card, you got to pick and choose. You got to pick and choose. Now, it's really good to have a water DPS. And when the Hydro set comes out, it's going to change the landscape. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Once again, come check me out on my twitch.tv channel or check us out in the Discord down below. I'll see you next time.